Parenting little kids is so freaking hard. Can we just say that? Hey, this episode is for you moms and dads that have little kids in the house still. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes just pumping you up with encouragement. So if you're just having one of those days and you're just like, you're checked out, you're not feeling for it, and the barf is everywhere and the minivan is a mess and you just aren't getting any love or appreciation for all you do for your wonderful little kids, just put this episode on repeat and let us pour some life back into you. Ready?
Let's go. Welcome to the Family Goals Podcast. We are Shay and Graham Cochran, and we believe that your family can do things differently. The payoffs are worth it, and the little things can have a huge impact. I want to just give a shout out real quick to the mom who is currently hiding in the bathroom trying to listen to this podcast episode with children throwing themselves at the door. Little fingers. You remember the little fingers that would like slide under the door when you're going to the bathroom? Oh, we see you. And I'm so excited about this episode today. This one is for moms and dads just in the throes of parenting. Those years are so hard. They're physically exhausting. They're emotionally exhausting. They're endless. They're repetitive, right? It just feels like the same. And as parents now who are out of that season, praise
Jesus.
We have an almost 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. Hopefully today we can just really encourage you with a few things, 4 things in particular. The first one being that it gets physically easier, and arguably it gets a lot more fun, right? Those of you that are in those early days where you're barely getting any sleep, the kids are coming into your bedroom 4, 5, 6 times a night. I don't know if you remember that time when Chloe was around 2 or 3. She always slept through the night really well. And then we went through this patch where she was coming into our bedroom like every 2 hours or so. And this went on for a few months. We never figured out what it was because, you know, these things with parenting, you really don't always know what's going on. And we were zombies for like months on end. I remember those. I mean, you could just think to traveling with kids, like amount of crap that you have to bring with you.
To get them even into the car with clothes on.
And then you get them, you're running late. You've got bags, you've got car seats, you've got strollers, you've got diaper bags, you've got your purse as a woman. I mean, you're just carrying so much crap. You're running late. You put them in the car seat. They have a blowout. Like right as you get them in the car seat, it's all over the car seat. I just remember rolling into places late, exhausted, on the verge of tears, barely even making it there alive. And now fast forward that to what life looks like now, right? The kids dress themselves. They put their own shoes on. They find their own shoes. They put their own shoes on. They wipe their own butts. They go put themselves in the car. They can look at the clock and see what time it is to actually help in getting somewhere on time. They buckle themselves in. They carry their own ish. I mean, it just like physically gets so much easier.
So the memories that come up for me, I felt bad for Shay, were road trips. We'd be in our minivan and we'd be on a road trip. And you know that age when the kids, they're so locked in to their car seat that, I dropped my thing. And we're like going like 85 or 75, whatever the speed limit is. That's
exactly
what we're going.
The speed
limit. And so I'm driving. So Shay's the one that has to like you would just hear her. It was like, I'm happy to do it at first. But then when you'd be like 3 hours in, she's like, take the seatbelt off, like reach over.
The 10th time that you have to, as the passenger,
it's awful.
Turn around, unbuckle yourself, and lean back to get someone something or hand something to someone or hand something from someone to another something. You lose a part of your soul dies.
Because you physically
inside.
have to be a gymnast to do what you're doing. Like, how many muscles did you pull? The best is she's already frustrated that she'll reach back. And then she'll be like, oh gosh, like she pulled something and then she's like irritated at the kids and she's like, hey,
but you can't be mad at them. They're not doing anything wrong.
No,
They're not misbehaving.
I'm not coming down on you. It's just like, all I can do is just drive like, sorry, honey. Stop dropping your crap, kids. Like, and then, it could just be a passy, like, it falls right out. And you're like,
for the 100th time. For the 24th time.
Like those, it's like a microcosm of the little things that just exhaust you as a parent.
Fast forward that to road trips now. We're about to do an episode on tech next, but we were laughing because fast forward that to now where they're old enough to read or watch TV. And really, to be honest with you, road trips are an exception where we will let them rot their brains out with movies or shows on iPads we could drive actually like 8 hours and not even hear from them. We would forget that they're even there.
Yeah.
So we can just hang out and have conversation. Anyway, it gets easier. Just hear us with that. It gets so much more physically easy. You just aren't going to have to carry their stuff forever, carry them forever and their stuff. You're not going to have to bring as much with you. Ladies, I leave the house and sometimes I just take my keys and my wallet and my phone. It's crazy. I can carry it all in one hand. Like I remember a day where I thought that would never be me. That my life was like schlepping bags and crap around and somehow still never having exactly what it was that I needed. Yep. Anyway, it just gets physically much easier as they get older. And it gets arguably just a lot more fun because probably the easier, plus they're older.
Yeah, exactly. It just, final thought here for me is just, it's cruel when you're a young parent because you get less sleep. It requires more physical effort on your part. And so the amazing thing is you see how resilient you are as a human, how you can operate. But at some point it becomes panicky. Like I can't keep doing this forever. And so what we're here to say is it won't be like this forever. Yeah. Actually, sooner rather than later, it's actually going to get easier. So you may not notice it if you're just in the middle of it. And again, it depends on how many kids you have. But even if you keep having some kids and you're going back to some of these younger years, your OG kids, round 1, round 2, they're starting to get older and they don't require your help as much. And on top of that, they can help you with the younger ones. So it feels like a lot now. And we're just saying, hang in there. Like you're on a roller coaster. Yeah. Like don't jump off the roller. Only people that get hurt on roller coasters are the people who jump off the roller coaster while it's moving. Just hang on. It will come to a more calm part of the ride. But I understand the pain. Yeah. And there's no secret sauce other than hang in there. Yeah. It's not like this forever.
And there will be a day when your kid says, Mom, do you need me to carry anything out to the car? Like you have a lot that you're just taking care of for yourself. And they're like, I've got your water bottle, Mom. I'll put it in the front seat of the car.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Like it gets awesomer.
Absolutely.
All right.
Number 2. Okay, this one might help somebody. You don't have to work on everything at once in terms of training up your child, right? Yeah. The book of Proverbs says, train up a child in the way he or she should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. So our job, right, is to train. We talked about this last week on the fatherhood episode. I feel like our job is to train up our kids. The problem is if you're a mega caring parent, which I'm sure you are, like you're like, I want to do the best job I can with these kids, and especially in this day and age where you can listen to a family goals podcast, which might even become a burden to some of you. Where you're like, gosh, I got to do all these things.
How do I work on all
family
these
vision
things?
And family, like I can't do that. It might feel like you're trying to do all the things for your kids because you want them to be all these different things: responsible. You want them to be
caring,
respectful.
Kind,
you want
sharing.
them to be hardworking. Yes, you want them to be creative and develop their own personality, chart their own path, but also be submissive to what we say.
Remember the things that you ask them to do or their teachers ask them to do.
Yeah, like whatever it is you care about, it can feel like I got to get all this into their brains and into their beings. But you don't have to do it all at once. So the encouragement is just think about the season that they're in and focus on the big win or the maybe 2 big wins. What do I need to teach them in this season of childhood? And then you're going to add to that, much like I think of like college or high school. Like you have 1 grade, you learn algebra 1, then next grade, we're going to add some calculus. Like don't shove it all in one season, just the big win per season. So maybe what are some examples?
An example of that would be when you have an infant, when you have a really little, I'd say sub 1-year-old. One of the things, just one, but one of the things that you're trying to teach them is to like fall asleep on their own.
That's the big win.
They're safe and they're cared for and be able to fall asleep without needing to be held to sleep every time or fed to sleep every time or be in your bed every time. Like that's a very simple thing because you want sanity in your life moving forward. So that's like one thing you're focusing on, that they feel like they can sleep in their own bed. They can sleep through the night or wherever it is that they're sleeping. For us, it was like a pack and play in our master bedroom. But wherever it is that they're able to fall asleep on their own, alone, without you needing to be there or do something. That's just like one example of a little thing. Another one is when you have a toddler. So like the 2s to 3s, really to 4, but it starts for sure probably 18 months to 2. They have got to learn authority because their life depends on it. So yes, maybe it's cute. There's things about like, what's the big deal about kids like chewing on the remote, or shouldn't I just be able to let them do these things? It's less about that particular thing. It's more about them learning that when mom and dad say no or stop, that you mean that because their literal life depends on it. You moms know what it feels like to walk out of a store, like a grocery store or something, into a busy parking lot, and your toddler tries to run for the car. It is mortifying. Yeah. There are instances where your toddler who cannot swim goes up to the edge of a pool, and you have got to have instilled in them at that point when I say stop, do not move any farther, that they listen to you because their entire life depends on it. Now, at the age of 2, are they going to be the most respectful? Probably not. Are they going to be great at sharing? Probably not. Yeah. Are they going to be considerate of other people? Probably not. But you have a lot of years ahead of you to work on all those things. Parenting is a long game, but there are certain things in each season that are absolutely critical. And if you can focus on those, it will make kind of the burden of parenting a little bit easier.
I think that's the goal, is don't put so much pressure on yourself to try to get all these things in early on. So one thing that came up for me was like, if you're a person of faith, like we're a Christian family, so we want to raise our children up to love and follow Jesus, right? When they're 5 and 6 and you're like, well, I'm reading them the Bible, or we're doing family devotions.
They're literally just picking their noses and smearing it into the carpet.
Do they even care about the Lord? And it's like, it's amazing actually how at a young age kids can actually understand some of the fundamental things about the faith, and in a way trust in Jesus easier than adults. Adults get skeptical, and Jesus loved children and praised children, almost said like we have to become like children. So I'm not saying they cannot like learn the ways of Jesus as a young child. I'm saying if you feel like we're trying to get Jesus in them,
they just don't seem repentant. Yeah. I hear that a lot. Like they just don't seem very like they're not sorry over their sin.
Because they're a kid, they don't care about anything. But like they want chocolate and they want to do it. And if they aren't memorizing scripture or whatever your version, and again I'm speaking to the Christian families here, whatever your version of like the ideal development spiritually at whatever age it is, just like let go of that for a moment, because there's probably a season when they're probably closer to teenage years that they can actually rationally make a decision for themselves of, oh, this is what it means and this is what I believe. So we've tried to raise our kids in a Christian home since day one, and it's like,
but you don't always see the fruit of that.
You don't see that right away. So again, don't put so much pressure on they've got to check all these boxes, and I got to see progress and all these wins at age 3. And I'm playing classical music and they're doing all these things so they become a genius. Like I love it. But if it's becoming exhausting to you and you're frustrated, we want to give you permission to say, hey, what do we think as a couple is the big win or the 2 big wins for this season? And you and your family, your husband or wife can decide this. And then it gives you the freedom to say, let's just focus on this thing. Like you were saying, authority in this age. It could be like how to be a friend, or how to like interact, or maybe it's how to like do school well when they're first going to school. Or it is
respect between parent and sibling to sibling, parent to sibling, the words they're using, their way. But just pick, identify the 1 or 2 really big wins for them developmentally at that stage, and then be freed up to just focus on 100%. Those things and let a lot of the other stuff go. Yeah, they might not clean up their toys well. They might. Anyway, we could go on and on about that, but.
Hey, I hope that you're loving this episode. But listen, what we really want to do is save you from one more boring night of tech gather time spent scrolling your phone side by side. We have a better idea. Okay, we've created 5 absolutely foolproof conversation prompts to help you connect with your spouse today.
Yeah, these are like literally fill in the blank easy. Simple questions, nothing heavy, nothing too serious. These are light and fun to do exactly what they say, to help you connect. So to get these free conversation prompts, just go to familygoalspodcast.com/connect. They're free, they're fun, use them today. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah. Number 3, encouragement for you guys is they are learning, even if you don't see the fruit yet.
Yeah. there will be fruit eventually. I think now that Chloe's like 14, she's almost 15,
yeah.
but in her 14th year was where we started to see some of the fruit of 14 years of parenting.
Yeah.
An example of that would be in her early years. I remember, and by early years, I also mean like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, where I just questioned, like, have I been a good mom? Like, does she know that she's loved? It's always kind of hard to figure out her love language. And she always had just kind of a, how would you define Chloe's personality? Like more serious personality. She's very independent. She loved to play by herself as a kid. She wasn't like the type of kid that gave you the warm fuzzies in feedback as a child. So as a mom, I was like, does she even know we love her? Are we connected? And now in her 14th year, she has become the warmest, sweetest, kindest human. Like she's a joy to be around. And there's so much love reciprocated and kindness and warmth. But like that's fruit that took 14 years to see. So just be encouraged that they are learning even when you don't see the fruit. And this is just where consistency is key. There are just going to be things that it's going to feel like you are hitting it over and over and over and over, and you're not seeing the payoff. You're not seeing the benefit. Keep being consistent. You will eventually see fruit. It's just probably not going to be as soon as you think it should be or could be, or maybe the way you see it in somebody else, but it will come. Don't give up. Just keep being consistent, and it's worth it. The payoff is worth it.
Yeah, parenting is a game of sowing and reaping. And so, like, the Bible talks about this, but sowing is like planting seeds. And I think the farming metaphors are so helpful because even if you're not a farmer, you understand the principle. If I plant a seed and then go out the next day and expect to see growth, like,
yeah, you're going to be disappointed.
You're going to be disappointed. And then if you start to dig up the plant to see what's happening under the ground, you're actually ruining its ability to take root. So I think we understand the concept that sowing and reaping, the principle is simple. You do reap what you sow. So whatever you're sowing in the early years of your kids, you're going to see that show up. Yeah. If you sow, this is how, you have to respect authority, that will show up later. If you sow, this is how we speak with kindness. Even if you don't see it in the early years, that's going to show up later. You reap what you sow, for better or for worse. So we're talking about like plant the good seeds. Even if you don't see the fruit, you will reap it. You reap later than you sow, which is what I was saying. You never reap right when you sow, so it will come later. And you always reap more than you sow, because the principle is one seed creates a tree that has multiple fruits and seeds on it. So it's a game of multiplication. So you might feel like, I don't know if we planted enough, if we're going to keep the seed metaphor, enough seeds of spiritual disciplines as a Christian, or enough seeds of like
high character, maybe like compassion for other people.
Or like because going back to our earlier encouragement, you're so freaking tired as early parents. You're literally, I at one point got really worried, like, we were our worst selves in the early years. So did we screw our kids up? And how unfair is that? Because you're so exhausted.
Like that time that you called your 2-year-old a jerk.
I don't even, come on. We don't have any proof that I said that.
Oh, we have proof.
What?
One time, Graham was hanging curtains. We have a long history of like hanging curtains.
If it has involved hanging curtains, then it makes total sense
in our house.
I believe that.
And I just remember Graham up on a ladder trying to hang a curtain, and it wasn't going very well because cinder block all around the windows here in Florida. And Chloe comes in. She's like 2 or 3, and I really don't remember the details of like what she was saying or what it was, but I just remember Graham looking down at her and saying something like, "Stop being a jerk," to our child. Oh, man. But you're just so freaking exhausted. I get it.
How come you didn't mention that on the fatherhood episode? Graham, tell me about that time that you sucked as a father and told your kid that she's a jerk. So you think like,
it brings out the worst in you. That was to your point.
Yes,
it brings out the
so
worst
unfair,
in you.
so
You've
you're
never
like,
done that since then.
Thank you. But if you're worried, like, bro, but I planted all these probably crappy seeds when I was tired and irritated. The amazing thing is, even if you feel like you just planted barely enough seeds to teach them, high character, respect, love, sharing, it doesn't take much in a seed to grow a massive tree. So you will reap more than you sow, later than you sow, and you will reap what you sow. And I say that as an encouragement. So think of it as a long game. We're in such an age where we do get instant results, and we talk about that a lot. But parenting is like the ultimate, like just like business. I think if because I see this with business clients, they're just so darn impatient. Like, well, I did what you said, or I followed that strategy, or I had a launch, or I did this thing on YouTube and it hasn't worked. I've been posting content and it hasn't blown up. Well, how long have you been doing it? 6 months. What do you expect? Like, it takes years to be incredible in business. It's going to take 18 years to see sometimes some of the fruit. The full fruit.
Yeah.
So just the good news is they are learning.
Mm-hmm.
And the phrase more is caught than taught. Like, even if you don't feel like you're a good communicator, or like, I'm sit down and I'm going to teach you this lesson, like, they're watching how you live. So even if you don't have a great way of articulating it, you don't have to have these like, here's lessons with dad. Like, they can watch their dad, they can watch their mom. And if you are trying to be the best version of yourself, they're going to notice. And the beautiful thing is as they're growing up, you're hopefully growing too. I mean, you're listening to this podcast right now, which just shows that you're a gem of a person who cares about becoming a better version of yourself and showing up for your kids. So you are improving. They're going to notice that. They won't remember much of the old you when you were young and tired, which is great. They'll really remember the you when they're like 10 and older. And so as you grow, they grow. Just play the long game. It will be worth it.
Yeah, I love that more is caught than taught. That's so true. It can be so exhausting trying to teach our kids to apologize when they've hurt someone, to pick up after themselves, to, speak with a kind tone. That's some of the very exhausting work of parenting in those little years. And I'm not saying that you don't call that out, especially when they do it well. But if you can focus on doing it yourself, are you picking up after yourself? Are you speaking with kindness to your spouse and to the kids? Are you apologizing when you make a mistake? That they're learning, like that all counts.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is sowing seed. One other thing I wanted to say about that before we move on from this point, and this is just kind of more of a tip, just as a parent that's farther along in parenting, is I do think it's helpful to parent for the type of child you want to have in the future. And one example of that is with disrespect. So we'll stay on the topic of kind of disrespect and how they talk back to you. One thought that we always had that we're seeing pay off now is we always figured it'd be far easier to discipline a small child who talks back to you than it is to discipline a 15-year-old or 16-year-old or 17-year-old that talks back to you. So, I don't know. We don't have a large sample size. We don't have a large family. I'm not saying that I've cracked the code on this. There's probably plenty of parents out there that are like, yeah, I did the right thing and I'm not seeing the fruit yet. Sure. So just some grace there. But one thing that I think we have seen is that there were a lot of things that we're like, we're going to go ahead and deal with this when they're little, because it's going to be harder to deal with it when they're older, just because of, methods of discipline and things like that. So just a kind of little side note as it relates to training up your child and what they're learning and when you're going to see the fruit. I'll stop there.
No, that's good, man. I like that. All
right. You want to go to the fourth one?
Yeah,
Last one.
You take us home.
Last one is that the list of what matters in parenting is shorter than you think. Just want to encourage you with that. In a world where we are on Instagram and we are on Pinterest and we're seeing all of these programs our kids can be a part of, and children can be learning to be musicians at the age of 26 months old. Kids should be in soccer by, the time they're 3 so that they can get a scholarship to get into college. Like,
come on now.
You should be at all of these mommy and me play date things, and you should be doing all of these things, and your kids should be dressed well, and they should be in all these like perfect little H&M outfits and look good and look put together, and their birthday parties need to be next level.
Celebrities need to come to their birthday parties.
The list, and what I'm talking about is the biblical list.
Yeah.
The list of what actually matters in parenting is a much shorter list than you think. Do they love others? Do they take care of what they have? Do they honor authority? Are they free to develop into the people that God has uniquely made them to be? Not are they well behaved, right? Not are they well behaved, but the character development and the personal development. Are they becoming the fullest version of their unique selves? And are you cultivating that? It's a really short list. If you really think about it, it's not an easy list. And don't hear me saying that. It's not an easy list, but it's a much shorter list
Wow.
of what it takes to be a good mom. Let's just zero in there because I think moms like really bear the brunt of this mom comparison and mom guilt and mom shaming. The list of what it takes to be a good mom is far shorter than you think it is. So maybe take some time to think through what actually matters and what doesn't, and just be bold and brave and be willing to say no to the rest.
Oh, I love that. You know what it makes me think of is shameless plug, my new book, Rebel, Find Yourself by Not Following the Crowd. One of the whole principles towards the end in the chapter on the fifth part of the framework that I teach is to basically come up with your own family values. I think as a parent, I think it's really cool if you can just decide what you care about as a family and only parent for those things and let yourself off the hook of all the other things. This is why it's good to get off of social media or reduce your time paying attention to what everyone else is doing. I mean, keep listening to this show.
We are the exception to that.
No, but I tell people even on my podcast, like if you need to like unsubscribe.
If it's not helping, don't listen.
Like there is a season for absorbing wisdom and learning it, but then you have to go make your own decisions. Like your family and your kids are totally different than our family and our kids. Even if we come from the same worldview and share a lot of the same values, you still have your own uniqueness. So I think most of the pressure, you just nailed it, was like the Pinterest, the other moms comparison. But I think it's so much more freeing. And I think the happier families are probably the ones who are a little more off the grid, socially, in terms of like, I'm just going to put some blinders on, even if I live in the middle of the city and I'm very technically connected. I'm going to stop paying attention to what everyone else is doing. But not only that, I think we get that a lot, stop watching, get off social, disconnect. That's a great step one. But really the step two is the most important one. Like, what do we care about?
Yeah. Who do you want to be?
Who do you want to be as a family? You get to
be?
decide that.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you even get to decide this just in general, right? Like we were talking about this with Chloe this morning at breakfast. The girls were having breakfast and we're talking about like, hey, one day you're going to grow up, have your own family, girls, with your own husbands.
You're going to basically kind of leave our family.
Yeah, right. And like in the book of Genesis, it says like a man's going to leave his father and mother and he's going to join fast to his wife and they're going to create a new family unit. And we were talking about like, the sadness, but like the cool thing is that you get to create your own family and hopefully take the good stuff that you like value from how we raised you and hopefully the good stuff that your future husbands value. And then you can really decide what matters for you. And when you set the rules in a way, or you set the values and you're only beholden to those values and no one else's values, and it kind of takes the pressure off. And so, like you said, the list of what matters is as short or as long as you want it to be.
Yeah.
And only you know what your family needs. And I think there's someone out there that just needs permission to just focus on those things. I think you intuitively know what your kids need and what you need and what you want. Like if you could just wave a magic wand, I think you're just waiting for permission to just focus on those things. I feel like there's some pressure. I have to be like Graham and Shay, or I have to be like this couple, or I saw this one person say this, or this one therapist said this in this one study. Okay. Sure. But what do you want to chase after as a family? And you're free to do that.
Yeah. I love that. I love the ownership of creating your own family culture and your own family values. So hopefully this encourages you, moms and dads of littles, hang in there. You are in an exhausting but important season. It will not last forever. It will get easier. It even gets to the point that your kids become just actually like the tables turn. And we see it now in ways where they start taking care of us in different ways. And it's really, really sweet. So the payoff will be worth it. The little things will make a big difference. All of our taglines all rolled up into one.
Yeah.
Hopefully this encourages you. Bookmark it for the day that you are locked in the bathroom and your children are screaming on the other side of the door and their little fingers are sliding underneath and you can't get 5 minutes of a break. Listen to this and just know you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. It's going to pay off. It's not going to feel like this forever.
So let's end with some gratitude. What's something you are grateful for this week?
I'm grateful we're not recording this episode at 9:00 at night like we did the last one. That was brutal.
We were trying to get it in before we took a trip.
Yeah.
That's,
What about you?
that's good. I'm I'm grateful we got a little bit of a date day in the middle of the summer
We did.
because all of a sudden the kids are hanging with some friends and
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, we have a thing tonight. I'm like, shoot.
They're like scheduling their own things these days.
like, great. Be gone with you. We can do whatever we want. Again, encouragement. Like one day you too can do whatever you
Oh,
want.
my gosh.
So I'm grateful for that because I thought we were going to
Crazy.
be, I thought it was just going to be like a family day at the house today, but
Yeah.
our
Turns
schedule-
out we get a date day and a date night because they both have stuff going on. It's crazy. Crazy. Awesome.
Oh, real
This is what
quick.
you have to look
It does
forward to.
remind me, though, of that scene in
I know what
Hotel
movie you're talking about,
Transylvania
yeah.
3, the one where they go on the cruise.
They drop off their like the wolf
There's
mom and
the
dad.
Wolf Mom and Dad. There's like a kids club on the cruise, and they're like, what's the kids club? And they're like, well, it's where you drop your kids off, and then
They
you just
drop
go-
their like 3,000 children
yeah.
off.
And like, what do you mean drop our kids off? Like, well, we watch your kids. You can go do whatever you want on the ship. And so they like drop their kids off and they walk out and they're on the ship and they look out like, we can do whatever we want.
Whatever we want.
That's what it feels like for that first time when you're like, freedom. Anyway, random.
coming
It's coming for
eventually.
you in a good way. Thanks for
Awesome.
hanging out with us. We'll see you on next week's episode.
Bye.